So Joy Reid, I've talked about her a bit over the last couple weeks. Now, it's kind of funny. This is one of those things which I've addressed before. When these people do these ridiculous things on CNN and MSNBC, nobody's really watching, right? Like MSNBC's ratings are terrible. They're hugely funded by giant corporate behemoths. They have massive staffs, probably 20, upwards of 50 people on some of these shows. I have no idea exactly how many they have at this point, but they have huge staffs. They have huge budgets, multiple producers, directors, everything else. As I always say to you guys, I got a producer sitting right there. I got a director sitting right there. I got an intern who's working from home. And then what I say here, it's whatever coming out of my mind. I got a couple notes and that's it. But you get these overproduced shows that are basically Democrat propaganda. That's what Joy Reid is. She's a Democrat propagandist. By the way, you can find some very anti-gay writing of hers that MSNBC never addressed from about 20 years ago. Now, of course, if she was on the right, she would have been canceled and destroyed. But she's a lefty. She's a Democrat, she's a progressive, so that's okay when you do that. Anyway, she's been going after Chris Rufo, and most of you know Chris Rufo. I've had him on the show a few times. He is a lawyer, and what I love about Chris is he's a fighter. Like, this isn't a guy that's just talking about stuff. This is a guy who has taken the fight against critical race theory, against race essentialism, against the idea that you are born guilty because of your skin color, in this case white, against the idea that we should racialize everything, and that traits that once we thought of as good things, like showing up on time and working hard and knowing empirical facts like 2 + 2 = 4, that somehow these are white things and these are things that must be destroyed, and that the founding of America was evil because it was through white people and all of these things, and that the real thing that brought America together was slavery. I mean, these are all nonsensical things that are being pushed in all of our schools. They're one of the reasons that everything seems to be falling apart. We did a clip last week of Barack Obama basically implying that critical race theory is not something to fight against, which tells you that it actually is something to fight against. The fact that he even had to go out there and say that, because it shows that the fight against critical race theory is starting to work, right? So Texas, Florida, several other states have now passed laws banning critical race theory being taught in schools, the same way you wouldn't want Nazism, say, taught in schools. You could teach about the Nazis, but you wouldn't want to teach that the Nazis, with their racialist ideas about the world, were the good guys, right? So Chris is doing an absolutely great job, and he's been calling out Joy Reid, and, she called him out on her show.
This is a guy named Christopher Rufo, who's at a conservative think tank, at a conservative think tank. And he says the goal is to have the public read something crazy in the newspaper and immediately think critical race theory. We've decodified the term and we'll recodify it to annex the entire range of cultural constructions that are unpopular with Americans, basically using critical race theory as a brand name.
Oh, absolutely. It's a distraction.
It's a distraction. Okay, I'm not even sure who that other person was, but all right, Joy Reid is sort of going after the ideas that Chris Rufo has put out there. There's many other moments where she's been mentioning him. So Chris did what you can do, at least for now, on a semi-free internet. He tweeted at Joy Reid. He said, Joy Reid has denounced me by name multiple times on her show, but she doesn't have the courage to invite me on as a guest. She knows that I will crush her critical race theory apologetics any day of the week. So in essence, he said, hey, look, I put some stuff out there. You don't like it. You've mentioned me by name. Put me on your show. Let's talk about it. Now, I've been through many versions of this myself, right, where mainstream people go after me, CNN or New York Times, and I used to challenge everybody to debates, and they usually just disappear. Well, then Joy responded and really listen to there's a particularly crazy part of what she said here. She wrote, this is a weirdly aggressive way to get yourself on TV, Christopher. Why not just contact my booking producers like a normal person rather than going with the white man demands option? Capitals on white man demands. I had never even heard of you until _ piece exposing your plot to rebrand CRT. Now, okay, it doesn't matter when she heard of him. She's talking about him a lot now and making him seem like he's some sort of conservative bad guy because he's trying to get race obsession out of schools. But there she went ahead and did. She already showed her hand there. First off, what was the line? White, what was it? White what now? White man demands option. So now she racialized this conversation. She now looks at Rufo and she views him simply as a white man. So through the critical race lens, right? Through this lens where they racialize everything. Well, she did it there. She even put those words in capitals. So is a white man not allowed to ask to be on a show? Demands? You're talking shit about him, and now he's asking to talk to you. So this is what they do with everything. By the way, I'm going to guess that it is possible. And I'll ask Chris myself. I'll actually text him after this. I'll ask him if he went through the proper channels. Anytime I've called out somebody online, I always go through the proper channels first, and you always get ignored. So what would have happened, I would bet anything on this, is if Chris went through the proper channels, he's just ignored, right? And then he has to go public. Now, maybe he didn't, but also in the world of Twitter and the way we all communicate with each other, if someone calls you out on their national cable news channel show, you were allowed to tweet at them and say, hey, can we talk? He wasn't really being a dick about it, I don't think. And then the end there, until the piece exposing your plot to rebrand critical race theory. He's not trying to rebrand critical race theory. He's actually explained critical race theory quite well. What he's trying to show people is that when you hear these crazy things in the media that nobody fully understands, and why we're watching kids come home thinking that their parents are racist and the country is awful, he wants them to understand that that is directly linked to being taught the ideas of critical race theory. But it's his plot. I know it's his plot. It's very, very scary. So hopefully they will talk. I sincerely doubt that they will. Not that Joy's going to go for it, but I would gladly offer them this channel. If they don't even want me in the way, I'll offer them this channel and my 1.7 million subscribers or whatever it is to just get the message out there. If they just want to stream it right here, that would be just fine with me. But again, this is about fighting back. And I always tell you the thing, I don't like people who just talk. And I think a couple years ago, a lot of my liberal friends were just talking about talking and just not really doing anything. I like people who build things, and I like people who fight. And Chris Rufo is like the tip of the spear of the fight on critical race theory, and it's just great. And we'll see what happens with Miss Joy Reid. But do Google Joy Reid and her anti-gay writings, and then wonder why this woman is still on MSNBC.